beautiful, dog. Clean up, very clean, dog.
Alright, what's up, guys? Long time no see. I'm back from my trip. I've actually been back since I guess Tuesday. But pretty much what happened was, as soon as I got back to work as well. So, but now it's Saturday as of this recording. So I decided, why not make a Warhammer video? So here I am. Yes, guys, I will be playing Space Marine 2. I just don't have time. I've been focusing on other games too, because there's others I have to do. And Warhammer is just Warhammer. Space Marine 2 is just Space Marine 2 pretty much. So I gotta get this other stuff done in these other games too. But today we're gonna watch an iceberg. All right, here we go. Here's the iceberg. So guys, I was trying to find a Warhammer video that is like an iceberg. That is 50 minutes. If you guys don't know what iceberg is, on the top is normal stuff. I guess the chill stuff, right? Not crazy shit. But on the bottom is the really dark stuff. The more down we go, it gets more I guess scarier in some terms, or creepy or whatever. It depends on what iceberg it is, right? But generally, I think most iceberg is always it's gonna be creepy at the very bottom. This is an iceberg video I found. It's called The Ultimate Obscure 40k Lore Iceberg. I was trying to find one that's around 50 minutes, but I couldn't. And this one is the more recent one, so I guess it's fine in a way. So let's react to this. I think it's by Mr. Bones. Link will be in the description. Yeah, it's by Mr. Bones 40k. Let's get started. There are some stuff that I know and don't know. Alright, look, I only know a couple stuff. I know that the Emperor sits on his throne and he's blocking up, right? The portal, if the Emperor doesn't block that portal, a bunch of demons is gonna come through. So that's why he's sitting there for all eternity. And I do know the Daemon Kulaba, whatever, is how they breed Chaos Space Marines. Yes, I've seen it, guys. I'm sure it's on the bottom. But let's see what I don't know. Because I do play Warhammer, and I do know a couple lore here and there, but not all. Let me know what you guys think about this video, and let me know if I should react to more Warhammer stuff. And let me know if you guys also agree as well, or disagree, or do you believe that or disagree, or do you believe that this is this dark or something, or it should be on the bottom, it should be more up there. But let's get started.
Hi, I'm Arthur, and it's been a ride, right? This video is probably going to be one of my more ambitious ones, so let's get to it. A while back, I tried and failed at an iceberg video series breaking down this goddamn monstrosity right here, which has been the bane of my existence.
Sorry guys, 1 second. This is unrelated to this video, but pretty much when I came back to work, I usually work at 8 o'clock in the morning, but the day I came back, I got a text from my supervisor, and he asked me if I come in at 6 in the morning. So that's overtime. God damn, I'm sure that's fine. And also, check it out, guys. I got a certificate. Let's go! If you guys are wondering, it's probably updated by now. But my 3 favorite factions in Warhammer 40k. Obviously, this is going to be heresy, because I'm going to be playing Space Marine 2. And if you pick any race that is not the human race, hey man, you're heresy, right? You're a heretic. But my 3 favorite race would be, number 1 is probably gonna be Chaos still. I'm really deciding between Chaos and Tau, but I'll put Tau for number 2. And for number 3, I'll probably put Tyranids. Just an updated 2025 list for you guys. I played. In fact, my most favorite was Orcs, and then I think it was Chaos, and then I had an interest in Tau as well. But I guess the Orcs got replaced. Anyways, Orc is pretty cool though still. But I still like Chaos. I still like Tau more. Mostly because Chaos is badass. They look corrupted. It looks crazy. Pretty aggressive when it comes to combat. More aggression than regular Space Marine troops. And pretty much I like Tau because it's Gundam. And Gundam mech looks super cool. Lots of guns. Lots of missiles. High tech. Artillery, it can hit you from far away too. So
existence ever since. I have such a vocal minority of people ever since screaming at me to get this list done. And, well, here we are. I thought for you all, my little dumplings, it would be a fine way to celebrate 100,000 subscribers. I'm going to make this long-ass video for you and hopefully get it out on time with...
Guys, I'm so sorry for pausing, but I really did try to find a Warhammer 40k Iceberg that is the most recent. I want it to be up to date. This is 11 months ago. And I'll try to find something that's recent or like up to date and was relatively 50 minutes of an iceberg. Some dude's going like, all right, we're talking about this now. And it did this. That's it. All right, we're talking about this now. This. But I can't find it. But this is the closest thing. I got like an hour, 30 minutes.
The aid of 2 editors this time instead of 1. Hi Alice, hi Grom. I'm going to cover one of the most in-depth pieces of lore material I've ever read. But before we get into the contents of this video, what exactly is the iceberg meme? If you haven't been on the internet before, the iceberg meme is basically this concept of going layer by layer about a concept, and each layer represents a certain depth to that concept, starting from the top with the surface level material that you'd know at a glance, and then at the bottom, the most obscure.
Alright guys, I want to apologize. I know nothing, guys. Except for like, Sisters of Battle. I know that. I know what the Primarchs are. I know the Warp. I know what Psychers is. Because right now I currently play... Well, I used to play Thousand Suns. I know the Primarchs, each of the Primarchs' name, and what they do, and what they are. Right? I know like Perturabo. I know Mortarion. I know Vulcan, Jagatai Khan, I know Lionel Johnson, Alfarius, Omegon, the ones that they never talk about, the Forgotten Primarch, whatever. I know there's 20, but now there's only 18, right? Because there's 2 lost ones that they haven't been found yet, so something like that, right? There's going to be a lot of theories. So I do know Primarchs. I know like Rabute, Gilliman, Horus, of course, Magnus. But looking at this list... First layer, I can know most of this stuff. I know Sisters of Battle, and that's the Mechanicus, they're on the moon, Machine God, Praetor Hail Omniscience, I know Catan. But I'm looking at this, I'm like, damn, what the hell's all this stuff in the second layer?
Gear shit that you've never heard of in your entire life. This video is going to kill me. I'm not kidding. As I think most of my knowledge taps out around layer 7, or at least it did the first time round, so after doing a little bit more deep learning about everything that I need to for the specific iceberg, I think I'm gonna be fine. Let's make this a little game though. I can almost bet my life that every single one of you would not know every goddamn thing on this list. And... Bro!
Literally, the first tier? What the hell is this? Already.
About everything that I need to for the specific. I can almost bet my life that every single one of you would not know every goddamn thing on this list. And if I'm right, you subscribe. If I'm wrong, I don't know, dislike the video and call me something horrible in the comments. But regardless, I can guarantee you that you don't know everything on this list because a lot of these caught me. I didn't even know the names of some of these things. Also, if you're a longtime fan, I'll be making some announcements towards the end of this video that might be important for you to hear. So stay tuned to that. Or just skip to the last 10 minutes of the video. I'm not the police of you. You could do whatever you want. One last thing before I hop into the first layer of this video. I have a sponsor for once, which is wild. And much like pretty much every other sponsor, I really like what they have to show. But I think if you're a 40k fan specifically, or just a tabletop gamer in general, you're going to like this too. So please hear me out. I've been playing a lot of the Horus Heresy recently, and by recently, just over the last 6 months, I have been going at this escalation game with a good friend of mine. He plays Dark Angels, and I'm playing Iron Warriors. We have been getting up there in points, and I've been noticing something. As someone who doesn't drive, it is kind of a pain in the ass for me to actually transport my miniatures from my home to the game store, which it's about a 15-minute walk, but regardless, when you're getting up there in points, it's difficult. But with the help of the fine folks at Tabletop Stronghold, it's kind of not even an issue anymore. See, what they offer are these amazing magnet-based cases with steel shelving that you can magnetize the bases of your miniatures to and then stick them to it, which means they barely move during transport, and I've never seen any shift or any broken miniature ever since, which, considering I 3D print miniatures, is normally pretty common. So because they approached me to promote the Mag Case 2.0 for the holiday season, I had to say yes because, again, I'm always there to support the community, and you guys are 40k fans, so obviously at least some of you are going to have miniatures that need transport, and this is just one of the best options I've ever seen. Not to mention, it's a one-man operation, and considering how fast and efficiently it got to me, that really says to the level of passion that the creator must have for this. I never really got cases back in the day, but now that I actually have one, I don't think I could ever go back. So if you want to support me, as well as support the hobby, and also just get yourself a good case, then click the link in the description or the pinned comment and pick yourself up the Mag Case 2.0. As you can see from what's showing on screen right now, it's sleek, it's easy to use, and the shelves in general are just very adaptable to whatever size miniature you want to bring with you. And considering I'm bringing an Iron Circle Domitar with a hammer that is known to snap off at any interval is godsend. With their various holiday sales and these, use my link in the description or the pin. Let's get back into the Iceberg. Layer 1. Oh, Arthur sent you. With all that being said, let's get back into the Iceberg. Layer 1. The clear skies. Space Marines are the bread and butter of the 40k setting. To condense a literal landfill's worth of useless information, a Space Marine is essentially the perfect shock troop. A genetically modified cyborg not that was made from a male child selected usually between the ages of 10 and 14 to undergo multiple surgeries over the next 10...
Dude, what the hell? 10 and 14? The fuck? That's brutal, bro. Holy shit. Bro, imagine you just walk to school, you get abducted. You get a shot that puts you to sleep, and then it's surgery time. Holy shit. And you wake up like a super soldier. Like Captain America times 50. Holy crap.
Ish years. These surgeries make...
I think they don't even need to use the restroom. I think they don't even eat or sleep or they don't eat or use the restroom. They don't feel pain. They do feel pain. But they feel less pain than let's say, average human. Major less pain than average human. Why does his helmet look like... Bro, what? Wait, his helmet look like Deathstroke. Yo, is this a Deathstroke Marine?
Them taller, faster, hardier, smarter, and weirdly enough incredibly servile and also can spit acid from their mouth like a cobra. The genetic code and gene modifications depend on taller, faster, hardier, smarter, and weirdly enough incredibly servile and also can spit acid from their mouth like a cobra.
They can spit acid out of their mouth? Nah, I didn't know that shit. That's crazy.
The genetic code and gene modifications depend on the chapter that they hail from. These chapters are descended from legions, which are numbered 1 to 20, each one of these 20 being the base genetic stock to create a Space Marine. Ultramarines are basically the poster child subfaction of the poster child faction of 40k. They are the 13th Legion of the original 20 Space Marines, and are known for being the perfect generalists, as they strive to be the best at everything. Are they? Not really, but they are pretty damn good at almost everything across the board, even as far as Space Marines go, studying a wide manner of subjects.
So you have that stat thing in video games or like real life, let's say. You have like endurance, stamina, what is it, like strength, agility, stuff like that. So let's say this Primarch in his group of Space Marines has agility, right? Let's say Jagatai Khan, he's very fast, right? So all of his stats, all of his points go into agility. And then Angron, his points and his troops, they all go into strength or something like that, right? These guys is all balanced. That's crazy.
Outside of war, including politics and philosophy. They do have a bit of a controversial history involving them being overrepresented and having a lot of favoritism dedicated to them when people don't really like them, but I always like them. Necrons are a race of hyper-advanced sentient and sapient robots made of mostly indestructible metal known as necrodermis. They are originally a flesh and blood species of death-obsessed Egyptian aliens that tried to fight god frogs, but it didn't work at first. We'll cover that a little bit later, but they're the most advanced species in the entire setting, having technology so strong that it could blank out suns on a whim. Though, they do have a lot of nerfs to them that keep them kind of in line, mainly that most of them have lost their mind due to them being in hibernation for millions of years and are only waking up now. Orcs are the funnest faction in the entire setting of 40k. A race of sentient fungus made into the most orky orcs of all fiction. They love fighting, they like eating, and everything else is kind of secondary to the main goals of getting into a good scrap. The main thing to focus on here is their weird metal weapons that no one truly knows how they work. All of their tech is usually impossible to understand if you're not an orc, and a lot of other factions just chalk it up to orcoid magical bullshit as to why it works, which is, I don't know, partially true. Because they have smaller substrains for...
It's the power of believing, man. You gotta believe, man. You don't believe.
For their fungal whatevers, known as, like, the Gretchen, which are basically just goblins, and Squigs, which are, I don't know, but that dude seems chill. I like that guy. Eldar are elves in space. They have a high degree of mastery over most arts, be it traditional or carving a dude up with a chainsword. They are an old and proud race with a long storied history of fucking up the entire universe through means of them accidentally birthing a chaos god into reality, which is through means of them accidentally birthing a storied history of fucking up the entire universe through means of them accidentally birthing a chaos god.
Slanesh. And now, all the dark elves, I think they have to like sacrifice themselves or something like that to please Slanesh. I think it's like Drukhari. I forgot. Is it Drukhari or is it those dancing elves? I think it's like Harlequins. No, I'm sure it's like I think he'll explain later. But pretty much what happened was the Eldar, they conquered the universe. They perfected everything, right? Combat arts and everything. They got so bored. I think they had what is that? I forgot. I think they were so bored and they wanted to feel pleasure or something. And I guess what happened is like Slanesh was born through all this enormous pleasure and feeling. Slanesh is all about like, pleasure and feeling. And now, I guess Slanesh will kill them all if they don't sacrifice a big portion of their troops, something like that.
Into reality, which is, okay, if it was any other god other than Slanesh, I'd be a little bit more understanding, but it's Slanesh, so I'm not. They are a dying race, as they are avoiding their doomed fate at the hands of Slanesh, while also fighting off various other factions of the universe. Though they do have a strained relationship with the Imperium, they do have a track record of working with humanity to accomplish common goals. The Tau are the youngest race in the universe, barely establishing themselves as
for the good of mankind! Or not mankind, for the greater good! Mankind. What the hell, Kenny? Bro, when I first played this game, and I saw these dudes, I was like, bro, damn, these dudes are like gonna be like Bionicles. If you guys who are too young to understand, Bionicle was part of my childhood too. Especially like the movies, like Metro Nui. Crazy. I had like so much Bionicles, going to Target, buying Bionicles and stuff. It was epic. However, it did not, I guess it just fell off, which is sad.
A spacefaring race within the last couple thousand years, but you gotta give them credit. They took what they had and ran with it. They have some of the most quickly advancing pieces of tech in the history of 40k. Although not on Necron tier, it is Necron tier. Although not on the same level as some of the other more technologically advanced factions in the setting, they have access to some of the best long-range weaponry in the tabletop.
Dude, how can you look at this and say that this does not look badass? Holy shit, what the fuck is this? It's crazy. Bro, even if this thing does 1 damage, this shit looks insane.
As well as just in the setting in general.
If this thing does 1 damage, it's pretty ass, and you just wasted your money.
Unfortunately, they're kept in bay at the fact that they're just a small faction. Oh, also, side note, you like Gundam? Because I got those. Chaos is a concept. Basically, if there is a...
I like it.
Unfortunately, they're kept in bay at the fact that they're just a small faction. Oh, also, side note, you like Gundam? Because I got those. Chaos is a concept. Like, basically, if there is a psychic presence or an emotion felt, there is a good chance that if it is strong enough, it is going to lend power to the weird psychic chaos entities that exist in a...
I think it's called the warp, huh? Damn. So, pretty much, from my understanding, what is it? The humans, right? So this is just only humans. For humans, if you want something and you can't get it, I guess if you think like bad thoughts or something, your thoughts go to the warp, right? And then you're just gonna be like, I guess like corrupted over time, or like become a bad person over time, or something like that, right? I forgot, but for Space Marine, especially Space Marines, or anything that's like, I guess, like higher tier than human, I pretty much like Space Marine level or something like that. If they use their psychic, if they have psychic powers and they use it, I think they have to like draw power or borrow it from the warp to use, I don't know, like lightning or fireball or something, right? My friend explained this to me a long time ago. But over time, I guess they can look in the warp, and if they do that, they see bad things, and chaos is in there, so, and it can corrupt you.
Weird anathema dimension.
Like,
Chaos is based.
Join us. We have cookies or some shit like that.
Basically just the collection of various evil emotions, psychic ghosts that got so powerful that they became aware, and also gods. Through this, the Chaos Gods were born, and each one represents a different emotion. The four main flavors of chaos are Khorne, anger, rage, and passion; Nurgle, stunk, also sadness; Slaanesh, excess, hedonism, and desire; and Tzeentch, trickery, ambition, and being a dick. Tyranids are a hyper...
And Tzeentch can also see in the future. So what he doesn't mention is Khorne. He's all about blood, right? Blood for a blood god. He wants you to kill. Tzeentch is about seeing the future, having a backup plan, tricks, and stuff like that. Blue mana in the Magic the Gathering, I guess. And of course, like the red. Nurgle's the kindest of all of them, but it's about like decay and shit like that. And, you know, like the Slaanesh is all about like pleasure and stuff.
Adapted race of megabugs, but that doesn't really cut it in terms of their description. See, the Tyranids have the ability to absorb and recreate elements from any species they consume in their melting pits. Any genetic code that exists, they probably have a sample of it at some point. Because of this, they can take the best parts from each species or even recreate whole creatures with modifications in order to deploy the greatest weapons that are wholly organic in the entirety of the universe. These weapons range from hey, it's a giant praying mantis, all the way to, why do my teeth itch? The Inquisition is a branch of the imperial government of mankind that specializes in making sure nothing suspicious is going on. Basically, they are the secret police with unlimited authority and mostly unlimited resources to do whatever they deem necessary.
I think I know why it is on the Iceberg. Because sometimes, if they think that you're a heretic, they will just kill you. Even though you're not. So I think that's wrong. Maybe? I don't know, man. Unlimited power seems a lot of things you can do with unlimited power and unlimited resources. Damn.
Divided into different orders who have different...
From what I heard, the Inquisition and Inquisition, pretty much like, what's it called? I forgot. It's like the soldiers. Oh my god. I forgot what it's called. God damn it. It's called the Imperium and the freaking guardsmen. All of them are dicks.
Different responsibilities, usually around either demons or aliens. It's their job to root out evil wherever it may be, and if all comes to fail, they just blow up a few planets and hopefully they can just start over. Heresy jokes are a relic of a bygone era, or maybe I just don't talk to people who use them that often and I should probably get out of my house more. But basically, if you play Warhammer 40k in person with other people, there is a good chance that you will hear someone scream heresy at the top of their lungs. It is kind of a running joke, as it's a very commonly used term in the setting of 40k. With that being said, I never really found it was funny. Even online, it was overdone for quite some time. Or rather it was, I don't think I see it as much anymore because I think people are finally learning to laugh at other things that aren't just saying the funny word. I never thought it was
heresy!
It's funny, as I said, but comedy is subjective, but I'm also always right. So, Adeptus Mechanicus is an offshoot organization linked with the Imperium of Mankind. This organization is propped up by its weird offshoot religion of the normal Imperial Creed, seeing the Emperor as a god. Instead, they see him as the Omnissiah, a representation of the machine god that they worship. You're tech-obsessed weirdos who constantly graft on V8 engines instead of lungs, and just every manner of technology they can put into their bodies, they do so. Having a tradition of never inventing, but only remixing the stuff that they already have, they also provide for the majority of the Imperium's fabrication needs through their manufactories of both weapons, armor, and Gundams. Titans Gundams. The Imperial weapons, armor, and Gundams.
What the fuck is that? Yo, is that a walking castle? What the fuck is that? Walking castle dreadnought? I never seen that shit before. What the fuck? That's crazy.
Titans Gundams. The Imperial Guard are the backbone of the Imperium's military, likely due to GW not having an easy time copywriting the name Imperial Guard. They are now referred to as the Astra Militarum, but in general, they are us, the unwashed masses, given a decent rifle by today's standards and a pretty shitty flashlight by 40k standards. These fellas die in the billions and have billions to spare. They come in a variety of different cute regiments depending on the planet they come from, and pick your poison is the best way to describe them, as they have different flavors for whatever ails you. The Death Corps of Krieg are a massive regiment of Imperial Guard that hail from the planet of, you guessed it, Krieg. They are a fan favorite regiment due to their gas mask World War I aesthetic. Their lore is very interesting, as due to a massive debt due to half of their planet rebelling against the Imperium thousands of years ago, the remaining Krieg that exist on the planet Krieg actually view themselves as having an
shit reminds me. Look at this mask. Reminds me of a Russian sleep experiment. Crazy.
Eternal debt to the Imperium, meaning that no matter what happens, they feel they always owe more than they can give. They see death as a release and a way to finally repay their debt, as death is the greatest service that one can offer. This enthusiasm is both a good thing and a bad thing, as it often gets in the way of people trying to do their job. So they're a good regiment to have in high numbers, as well as just getting the job done no matter the losses, but they're not great for the morale of other people they work with. Oh, they also like trenches. The Sisters of Battle are basically the lady equivalent of the Space Marine. Though not so much modified genetically or physically, the Sisters of Battle have more or less the same gear. They are a hyper-religious organization who believe the Emperor is a god and will fight for what they believe is his grand vision. They often can perform what can be only described as miracles through sheer willpower, psychic force, actual divine intervention, but outside of that, they're a very aesthetically pleasing faction with white-haired women carrying bolt guns and very ornate power armor. They're also, never forget this, 100% butt fucking sane. Hive worlds are concept that exists.
What? I did not expect that. What? I thought it would be like 100% epic or badass. What?
In our world. Think Kowloon or some shit. I know I said that wrong, but just leave me be. Basically, megacities with minimal spaces are placed throughout a planet. These cities can hold hundreds of billions of people in them as they dig deep into the earth and stretch high into the sky. They're sort of tightly cramped, spiral-patterned cities. Hive worlds are where you have multiples of these hive cities located on it. They have a bunch of different reasons for existing, ranging from recruitment into the guard, as we need bodies for that, workers for other worlds, or just habitation for your average imperial human. But in general, the living conditions in hives are always dog shit, no matter where you are, unless you're in the absolute top echelons of the hive. But regardless, they are a very useful world to have, and because there's multiple of these hive cities on a hive world, they can have impossibly high populations. Layer 2, the tip of the iceberg. The Golden Throne is some ancient
You're back, guys.
piece of barely knowable technology on Terra. Xenos in origin, most likely, and is basically a mainstay of the entirety of the culture of the Imperium. It's kind of important as A, it creates the psychic beacon that psychers and navigators can use to pass through the using warp travel and not die horribly, and B, it's also a life support system that is currently sustaining the Emperor of Mankind, who is the ruler of all humanity and is also kind of important if you couldn't tell. It's slowly decaying day by day, and the entire Imperium is working to get it to a not, because nothing good can come from the Emperor dying. Primarchs are the Emperor of Mankind's attempt to essentially make 20 weaker clones of himself in order to control the stars. These clones were handcrafted by him, and turned out to be more or less on the same level of incredibly powerful across the board, though not nearly as strong as him in most regards. We only know technically about 18, and even
That's a cool photo. Holy shit. Yo, this is badass. This artwork's cool. Alright, let's see if I can name all of them. Yo, what the hell? How did I can name all of these? Actually, let me move my camera real quick. Actually, let me just turn off the camera. I'm probably just gonna crop this thing out, probably. And like do it on paint or something. Alright, guys. Let me see. Where should I put my camera? I'll put my camera. Let me shrink the size. I'll put it up here so you can see everything. Okay, well, you guys can see this guy now. Wait, what the hell? This guy looks the same. No? Alright, well, here we go. Let me pick a color you guys can see. You guys can't see this. Alright. This is Jagatai. Oh my god, I can't even. Alright, so this guy is Jagatai Khan. For sure. This is Rabute Gilliman. Magnus. This is Mortarion. I know this because these two are the Chaos Primarchs in the later on. This guy's definitely Horus. Because Horus always has his eyeball right here. Damn. This is God Emperor Vulcan? No. Wait! This is Alpharius Omegon. There's two of them. Yeah! Alpharius Omegon. The reason why is because there's like 18 of them. What the fuck? Wait, no. There is 18 of them. No, there's 20 of them. But 2 of them are missing. But this one is actually 2 people. Not 1 person. So this is Horus. This is Angron. Or is this Angron? What? Who's who? This is Angron. I'll put this as Angron. Angron. Damn. Let's see. Sanguinius? Or is it Sanguinius? No. I think this guy's Sanguinius. He looks like Sanguinius. This guy cannot be Sanguinius. Sanguinius. This dude. Sanguinius. Who the hell is this guy? Wait, so this is Vulcan. Angron, Jagatai Khan. What I'm missing the Wolf Legion. I'm missing Portarabo. I'm missing Iron Warriors, right? I'm missing Night Wolf. This is Night Wolf. I forgot his name. Fuck. So this is Angron, Magnus, Horus. No, Angron, Mortarion, Magnus, Horus. I forgot. This dude is Slanesh. I forgot what his name is. Alright, so Space Wolf guy is this one. Lehman Russ. I can't even write. What the hell? Lehman Russ. And then I already got Jagatai Khan. Missing Korax. Is it this guy? They look the same. Look at him. Same hair. It's like art. Which one is it? Raven Guard. Stealth Assassin. I'll give it to this guy because it looks like he's about to be camouflagey in a way. Corvux right here. What am I missing? Rogodorn. This guy's Rogodorn? I have a feeling this guy's Rogodorn. Or this guy's Rogodorn. No, this guy can't be Rogodorn. What the hell? Oh my god. Ferris Manus? Ferris Manus. This guy. Turabo. Porturabo. This is Sanguinius. Who the hell is this guy? Lionel Johnson? No way. Or is this Fulgrim? I have a feeling because Fulgrim has long hair and his white hair. You see this eyeball right here? He also has the eyeball too. I don't know if this is Fulgrim. I feel like this guy's Fulgrim though. This guy's Fulgrim. I think they just drew him weird. Could be wrong. This is definitely Conrad. Now, if this guy is Corvux, this guy's Conrad. That's crazy. So this will be Rogodorn. This guy is Rogodorn. I got Lehman Russ, Rogodorn, Jagatai Khan, Portarabo, Sanguinius, Ferris Manus, Angron, Rabute Gilliman, Alpharius Omegon, Corvax, Vulcan, Fulgrim, Horus, Magnus, Mortarion, Conrad, Ferris Manus, Sanguinius. I got 2 left. So this guy is unknown. This guy is also unknown. So what is this guy and what is this guy? Because if this guy's Sanguinius, what is this? And this guy looks the same, just like Sanguinius. What the hell? Is this guy Lionel Johnson? Dark Angels. Or is this guy Lionel Johnson? Lionel Johnson has a beard though. This guy's Lionel Johnson. Last one. What is that? So this guy is Lorgar. Is this guy Lorgar or is this guy Lorgar? Is this guy Lionel Johnson or is this guy Lionel Johnson? Pretty much got everything. 1, 2, 3, 4, boom. Pretty good. I'm actually gonna save this photo and I'm gonna see where I'm gonna do a reverse image search, see where this photo is from. Can I even do a reverse image search or is it too late? Probably too late. But I wanna see if I get everything right. Or whatever. Let me know if you guys think I got everything right or not. Here we go.
And the 18 also includes a set of twins, so 19, it's complicated is what it is. The genes...
What the hell was that?
Twins, so it's technically 19, it's complicated is what it is. The gene seed of Space Marines comes from these 20 Primarchs, and thus Space Marines inherit certain genetic and physiological traits from their Primarchs.
Damn, bro, that shit looks brutal!
Genestealer cults are one of the best weapons the Tyranids have in order to take over worlds, starting with what else? A pure strain Tyranid known as a Genestealer. These entities can infect individuals with a payload of Genestealer DNA. This DNA causes their offspring to look horribly fucked up, as they are mostly Genestealer, but a little whatever the original species was, with successive generations afterwards creating more and more offspring that look like their mother race rather than the Genestealer. The point to all this? To infiltrate and destabilize the civilization and culture of a planet and make it prepped for Tyranids to invade and consume it. The people usually do it with a lot of gusto as they're under Tyranid weird hypno bug magic. The Trainer Legions are a group of 9 of the original Space Marine.
Holy shucks. What the hell is this thing? You see this thing right here? The fuck is this? Yo, it's a... Wait, no, these are all demons, right? I think these are demons. What the hell is this thing? Yo, it's some sort of Slanesh monster. You got Fulgrim here. What is it, Ahriman? Some Slanesh. Is this supposed to be Slanesh? I don't know. What the hell is this guy? He's like going Super Saiyan. Horus? More of Horus's soldier? I guess we'll Adeptus Mechanicus? I don't know, whatever.
Legions that during a civil war 10,000 years in the past seceded from the Imperium, usually for their own reasons, though mostly to side with Chaos and do their own shit. They kind of lost the war and now are corrupted by Chaos worship and are dedicated to the majority of the gods. Each of the 9 legions were kind of messed up to begin with, so it makes sense that they turned evil. If you want to know more, I do have a video series covering every single Space Marine Legion in order. You should check it out. Yes, this is a shameless plug, and yes, those videos are a year old, and I'm definitely significantly better at making them by now, and I should probably update those, but I don't care, it's my fucking video. The warp is basically this massive alternate reality. See, being psychic in the 41st millennia is a natural thing for most races, some less so than others, but in general, if you are alive and conscious, you have, I guess, a psychic echo in this alternate reality. It's a blank void where it is filled with the color of people's consciousness. This kind of thing is best exemplified by a match in the dark. The more psychic you are, the brighter your flame, and because there are trillions of people in the universe, the warp is basically a chaotic hellstorm of nothing but emotional energies, and it's really hard to explain. It's basically a swirling vortex that instantly kill you but sometimes help you. In summation, it's an alternate universe created by the collective psychic consciousnesses of all living beings. It's where chaos is, and it's kind of where if you believe in something enough, it becomes a living entity, which is disconcerting. The Catan are basically the opposite of the Chaos Gods, where the Chaos Gods represent intangible concepts, things that most people feel but in different ways. The Catan are ancient gods that represent tangible ideas, like rocks and death and shit. These gods need to exist for the concepts they represent to exist. Disclaimer, this is never confirmed. I just think it's true due to how it's represented in the lore. And when they are truly destroyed, bad shit tends to happen, usually to those who destroyed them. The majority of the Catan were shattered into smaller shards of themselves so that they aren't completely destroyed, and these shards are used as infinite power sources by the Necron. The return of Guilliman is an old concept that is dating this Iceberg quite a lot, but Guilliman is one of the 20 Primarchs, the Primarch of the Ultramarines, no less. He was stabbed by a poisoned blade by his brother and fucksnake Fulgrim before passing out and put into a temporal stasis field, which basically held him in place for 10,000 years. He has awoken, and after a disconcerting amount of paperwork, he is ready to kick ass and reclaim the majority of
Ready to kick ass, chew bubblegum!
Of the Imperium and bring back some of the lost ground that was given throughout the 10,000 years that he was taking a big nap. Side note, I might as well add this, the Lion is also back, who is the Primarch of the First Legion. So that's the thing. Trazyn the Infinite is a Necron archivist of the Nihilak dynasty. He is also one of the most fan-favorited characters in the setting, as his whole gimmick is to keep himself occupied and properly stimulated. He goes on these little trips to collect things. And what kind of things does he collect? Anything. People, items, relics, trading cards, entire moments in time, which he can freeze and plays. He does that. He's also one of the deuteragonists of The Infinite and Divine, which is a very fantastic book, and you should definitely read it if you haven't. Likers.
Alright guys, when it comes to Necron, I don't know most about like Necron commanders, or generals, or like, leaders, or anything. I know Catan, they're not related with Necron. I know Necrons. What they look like. They're like Terminator shit. They don't die. You shoot them. They're like most strongest tabletop troop you can play in the 40k game. And then I do know the only thing like, what comes to mind about Necron, about like command or anything, is like the Silent King. That's all I know because I know it from Magic the Gathering and pretty much just Magic the Gathering. Sorry guys, I'm back now. It's been getting pretty cold lately, and I don't want to get sick, so I'm putting on a long sleeve shirt. Anyways, let's continue.
This is just a shorthand way of describing psychics in the setting of 40k. It's not really that complicated. They pull their powers from the warp and manifest things through psychic beliefs and thoughts. They're usually insane or dead or possessed by a demon, which is not good. Catachan jungle fighters are a specialized regiment
Contra
of
Just
the
like
Imperial
Contra.
Guard, focused on guerrilla fighter tactics as well as jungle warfare. The planet they were raised on, the movie.
Dude, it's literally Contra. You're guerrilla fighters in the jungle on an island or something like that. Like a bayou terrain. Like a wasteland terrain. And there's aliens.
Predator, but instead of just one
Alien versus Predator, bro. Contra.
predator, it's a lot of them. Oh wait, that means Predators. I forgot that was a film. And that was a good movie. I'm getting lost in the sauce here. But there is a distinction. Instead of them being hunted and savagely murdered, they have essentially become one of the buffest and hardiest regiments of guardsmen in the universe. And no, I will not say Catachan. I say Catachan intentionally just to piss people off. The Adeptus Custodes are the elite of the elite for the Imperium of Man. Originally created as the perfect guardians for the Emperor, the Custodes actually make Space Marines look like children most times in combat. They are incredibly powerful, and you know how I mentioned that the Ultramarines tried to be the best at everything but end up basically just being pretty good at everything? The Custodes are the best at everything. They are genetically crafted from the ground up as babies to become the perfect warriors, and their creation process is mostly a mystery, but it is very different from how a Space Marine is created. Needless to say, not exactly anything you'd want to fight. Abhumans are humans that developed on other planets over thousands of years, being separated from tradition.
I think I played a game that had these guys in it. I forgot what it's called. It's like a Warhammer game. It's like Death Corps or something. Hold on, let me look it up. It was Dark Tide. It was this one right here. It was this one. I played the game that had the what the hell? Where'd it go? It had Dark Tide. It's this guy.
Humans from Holy Terra. Having changed over the years due to environmental stresses, it can lead to some weird shit like ratlings, which are basically just hobbits, ogrins, which are ogres, and which are beastmen. They are often used throughout the Imperium for jobs and minor tasks due to their hyper-specialized evolutionary abilities, ranging from operations like sniping for ratlings, bodyguards for ogrins, and target practice if you're a beastman. Yeah, it kind of sucks to be a beastman in the 40k setting. The Dark Eldar are the Eldar, but evil. See, when Slaanesh happened, the Dark Eldar decided it was a good idea to just double down on the whole hedonism cruelty thing, so they banded together in a massive webway city known as Kamara. This place is a den of experimentation as well as torture. See, being in the presence of pain causes the Dark Eldar to become invigorated and also rejuvenated. Thusly, they go on raiding parties to kill and capture more and more people for their own survival, as well as just for fun. Layer 3, beneath the surface. There are no good guys in 40k is something that people who only wear sweatpants and graphic tees say in order to sound smart when talking about 40k lore, reducing the various factions of the setting down in such a reductionist way that they want there to be clear-cut good guys and bad guys, which is such a dumb way of looking at it. I don't even know what the argument here is, but in most stories made for adults, can be out.
In a way, if you do think about it, there technically is no good guy when it comes to playing the game, though, because pretty much you play however you want to play. Every faction, I believe, whatever you play, let's say you play Orcs, or like you play like Eldar, or if you play like Space Marines, whatever, I think every faction has its own goal. So there is no good guy. I think that what it means is when you're like born into this faction, hey man, you just got to go with what it is, right? Pretty much in every faction, you are your own good guy in a way. And you must take out the necessary threat that is the other factions. But I do understand what he's saying, though. because there is no good guys. Everybody in Warhammer 40k, everybody's like a dick in a way or some shape or form or whatever. They're all dicks. Even Imperium or like was like the Imperial Guardsmen, even they're like dicks too, right? Orcs can be like that too. Chaos always like that too. I guess they're no good guys if you think about it.
Lineable good and definable evil when it comes to stories, but in 40k it's kind of weird to just reduce it down to that level. And I never really got the sentiment, though I do like making fun of it. And if you do reduce it down to that level, you're dumb and I hate you. The Horus Heresy was a massive civil war that broke out in the year 30k. This war essentially saw one of the 20 Primarchs, Horus Lupercalis, secede from the Imperium under the corrupting influence of the Chaos Gods. This caused 8 other Primarchs to side with him, with the 9 remaining siding with the Emperor. The repercussions of the Horus Heresy are so long-lasting as to be impossible not to see the impact they have on the modern setting. The Wolfen are a mutation that happens when a member of the Space Wolves Legion of Space...
Yo, I never saw this guy. He looked like Wolverine, bro. The hell's Wolverine doing here? You cannot say that this is not Wolverine. He looks like Wolverine. He even has Wolverine claws too.
Marines gets a bit too lost in the sauce. It is a gene curse that can come out at any time, and has only become more rampant recently with the resurgence of Wolfen from... It's a long story, but Leman Russ led an expedition into the Eye of Terror, and some weird Space Wolf mutants came out. These mutant Space Wolves are far stronger, faster, and more feral than their regular counterparts, with more beast-like, almost werewolf-like traits associated to them. They make great weapons, but they make terrible soldiers. Sly Marbo is a member of the Katakan Jungle Fighters and is a living legend. He is one of the best hit-and-run fighters in the setting and is able to ghost kill an entire camp of...
So this guy is Bill Riser from Contra.
Orcs before they even know what happened to them. Fun fact, his name is actually a reference to Rambo, as Marbo is an anagram for Rambo, and Sly is actually shorthand for the name of the actor who
Sylvester, but then this one is Sly.
Played Rambo in the movies, Sylvester Stallone. Servitors are one of the more grimdark staples of 40k. Basically, if you need a laborer for the Imperial work plant that you own, and you're short on staff, but also you don't want to pay anyone, you get a lobotomized servitor custom fit for the job. Half the time, they are vat-grown, sort of organic people made just for the job of being servitors, but the other half of the time, they're actually either criminals or people who were in the wrong place at the wrong time, who did a little whoopsie and now they're lobotomized and cleaning doors for the rest of their own natural life. Space Wolves are furries is kind of an unfunny meme from a bygone era, as the early folk of 40k were so starved for good humor that just because the Space Wolves have a lot of wolf motifs to them, it must mean they're furries, right? Literally, when on Earth have they worn anything that resembled a furry? That was one fucking time.
Dude, who the hell? This cannot be real. What is this? A furry marine. Holy shit, dude. Furry marine. What does it do? 6-7 damage?
Maybe Space Wolves are furries. The Great Game is in reference to the fact that the biggest thing keeping the Chaos Gods in check is the other Chaos Gods, as they are constantly competing with each other in order to see who is the strongest, who will rise above, as Chaos Gods wax and wane in power in the rankings of who they are, taking control of different dominions. The game never ends, but it's all just a bunch of power plays between 4 warring old gods that want to control the universe. They usually use pawns in the form of mortals to get their jobs done, so that's what's going on right now. The Istvan 3 atrocity and the Istvan 5 Dropside Massacre are basically when the Horus Heresy kicked off, where on Istvan 3 the loyalist remnants of the traitor legions were forced into a faux military campaign where they were deployed on Istvan 3.
Yo, this is Fulgrim. They're all purple. This has to be Fulgrim. Look at his hair. Emperor's children, literally.
Thinking that there was an enemy there, only to be virus bombed by the traitor remnants to clear them out from their legion. And the Istvan 5 Dropside Massacre was basically a counter-assault of a few loyalist legions that were sent to capture Horus. They got a tip-off from a few other legions that worked with them that turned out to be traitor legions that hadn't gone full mask off yet. This ended up with a lot of Raven Guard, Salamanders, and Iron Hands being killed, as well as Ferrus Manus, the Primarch of the Iron Hands, being killed himself. The loyalty loyalty of Alpharius and Omegon
Never mind, I think that guy was Ferris Manus. Shit.
has always been a bit of a meme, but for the uninformed, they are the twin primarchs of the Alpha Legion. They were warned by a super alien mega cult before the outset of the Horus Heresy that if they were to side with Horus during the heresy, humanity would be wiped out, but the universe would be saved from the threat that is chaos. But if they sided with the Emperor and fought for him directly, the Emperor would be grievously wounded in a fight with Horus, the Imperium would survive, but it would lead to eons of decay. This decay causing chaos to grow fat and powerful off of the suffering of millions upon millions of lives. Now, it gets interesting when you find out that their legion ended up siding with Horus, but the Emperor ended up getting injured anyway, which is weird, and that shouldn't have happened. Orcs are fungi. I mentioned it before, but yeah, orcs are born from spores that go into shady-ish places and grow a whole manner of different orcoid species. It doesn't take much for an orc civilization to thrive.
So they're pretty much vegetarian.
As all you need is one dead orc and boom, thousands of spores. Kamara is a massive city that the Dark Eldar are currently shacked up in. It is also probably the worst theme park you could ever visit, or ever want to visit, as it's filled with Dark Eldar, which if you haven't caught the memo or haven't been paying attention, Dark Eldar fucking suck! The Old Ones are an ancient species of hyper-intelligent frog people that basically are so psychically gifted that they could sculpt entire civilization.
Wait, they're frog people? Bro, they look like aliens. What is this? It doesn't look like a frog.
It's creating species from the ground up just with their arcane knowledge, which is pretty much their gift to the universe, being able to seed new races and hopefully watch them from afar. And they were trying to do that until the war in heaven was when the Old Ones refused to cure the cancer or fix the star causing the cancer around the Necron tier, which, if you couldn't tell by the name, is the race that eventually became the Necron. The War in Heaven involved the Old Ones creating a bunch of shadow armies. Species like the Eldar, the Orcs, and so on that had specialties that the Necron tier could encounter even when they turned into the Necron. It ended with the decisive loss of the Old Ones, but the Necron ended up going into hibernation for millions of years, leaving the Orcs, the Eldar, and a few other smaller races to kind of thrive in the area. The Shamans created the Emperor is an old creation myth for the Emperor of Mankind, where people believe that he was created by the collective psychic minds of a bunch of powerful perpetuals and psychers known as the Shaman. They saw that the warp, which was a place that they could reincarnate from, was becoming cloudy. In order to prevent it from claiming them as they died, they all decided to fuse their minds and spirits together to become the Emperor of Mankind, who hid away from society until he was needed most. The Black Rage and the Red Thirst are the main gene curses of...
Is this for Sanguinius? I think Sanguinius likes thirst, right? For blood or some shit?
The Blood Angels, the Red Thirst being a...
Yeah, it's Sanguinius.
Constant desire to actually consume blood. This desire causes them to go into a kind of light berserking frenzy that makes them more likely to want to rip something open with their bare hands or with a bladed weapon in order to get the blood flowing, as it were. The Black Rage is complicated but kind of ends up with the same thing but worse. With the death of their Primarch Sanguinius, the Blood Angels now are cursed to sometimes, when they lose themselves a bit too much to the Red Thirst, they begin to hallucinate that Horus, the traitor Primarch that killed Sanguinius, is in front of them, and they are permanently reliving the last things that the Primarch saw before their death, which leads them to be a bit angry. It also leads them to have a stupid, crazy power boost that makes them stronger, faster, and more resilient at the cost of their sanity forever. The Rubric of Ahriman was a ritual spell cast by the Thousand Sons Legion sorcerer Azhek.
Ahriman. 1 second, guys. Ari. League of Legends. Ahriman, your time has come. Your time has come. Let's go. Who is this guy? This thing won't focus though. What the hell? Come on, focus. Damn, what the hell? You got the Ahriman disc too? Shit. I wish you guys can see this, but you guys can't because the camera won't focus though. But yeah. I got Ahriman right here. I got Magnus over there too.
Ahriman. This spell was to prevent a gene curse known as the Flesh Change from consuming his entire legion and turning them into meat blobs. It did in fact do this, but at a cost greater than he was willing to pay. Basically, the less psychically inclined members of their legion were sacrificed and turned into dust that also had a bit of their soul and consciousness clinging to it. These consciousness constructs were attached to the power.
I think from what I heard, Magnus did not like this guy because he did this to his army. But Armin had his reasons because he didn't want his army to like die. So instead, I think he casted a spell, turned all the Thousand Sons Marines or like Chaos Marines into living sand. So when you shoot them, it just goes in and it just stays there, or sometimes it goes in and out. And it's just like you know that scene from Spider-Man, when he's like when you see like Sandman and the cops just shooting Sandman, it's just like the bullets just go through where he doesn't feel anything. I think that's why I like Thousand Suns, because they're literally just sand. Imagine you're just shooting sand and you cut them open, it's all sand. Bro, it's crazy.
Power armor that they were stuck in, while the more psychically
I also love the Egyptian theme too, which is pretty fucking badass.
Inclined individuals of the Thousand Sons became significantly more psychically powerful. The fall of the Eldar is what you get when all your ops go into hiding. You have no one who can oppose you, and you have weapons so powerful that even gods fear to really confront you. So the Eldar were sitting pretty. They didn't really have much to do, so whoopsie poopsie, they fell into hedonism. And their hedonism pretty much got worse and worse until they ended up creating a god, because that's what happens when you are a super psychic race and you feel this one emotion collectively. This created Slanesh. Slanesh is a god of desire, hedonism, and doing horrible things to people. So now, unless precautions are...
The Slanesh scream is crazy. I think they scream and your flesh just falls off.
Taken when an Eldar dies, their soul is actually claimed by Slanesh, which I'm told is not fun. So the Eldar are doomed. They can never really thrive as much as they did until Slanesh dies. Layer 4. The Deep Waters. Abominable intelligence is a term used by the...
Abominable intelligence. Wait, abominable intelligence. It's AI. This thing's AI.
Imperium. See, after the Dark Age of technology, there was this kind of stigma attached to artificial intelligence, as artificially intelligent constructs rose up and tried to wipe out the majority of humanity with a great deal of success. We ended up winning the war, and thus using the term abominable intelligence have stigmatized artificial intelligence as a whole. The Men of Iron are the AI robots that rose up during the Dark Age period and kind of almost wiped out the huge swath of humanity, and thus we ended up destroying them and most of our own technology. The Dark Age of technology is a long period of time where humanity was basically at its technological zenith, with tech so advanced and insanely powerful that the only thing we have to compare it to is the stuff that the Leagues of Votann are using right now. The age was also when sentient AI
Is this a Terminator armor guy? This Terminator armor looks cool.
robots tried to destroy humanity. See, the last two entries to understand that. The Wa field is weird. Basically, all orcs are passively psychic with no way of controlling it. So when you get enough orcs in an area of Wa, this field is generated, and it's basically a source of infinite energy for all their weapons, technology, and so on and so forth, but it also causes weird psychic shenanigans. They never really technically have to reload, and their guns, no matter how piddly, can penetrate through most armor. It's kind of the catch-all to explain why orcs can do pretty much anything. Speaking of, Gork and Mork are the gods of the orcs. Are they?
You was gonna show that one picture of them fighting in the mountains area? Gork right here, Mork right here. It's like this black and white picture I found on Google back in the day, where I looked up Gork and Mork at the gods. Dude, like, they're big as fuck. They just block out the sky. They're like fighting the mountains or something. I think this one is smart but like, strong. No. Strong but smart. Or this is smart but strong. Some shit like that. Weak but cunning but weaker. Or cunning but kind of by week. Cut brutal or brutal by or cutting some shit like that.
The same god, two separate gods, a two-embodied god. We don't ever really know, as the orcs tend to worship the two knuckleheads in such a varied way that it's kind of hard to keep track. All we know is that Gork is brutal yet cunning, and Mork is cunning yet brutal, which may not seem like much of a distinction, but I promise you that it is. Caiaphas Cain, and yes, I'm never actually going to call him Caiaphas Cain, that sounds dumb, is God's silliest little soldier. He's kinda a professional at failing upwards in everything he does, graduating with top honors and hoping to get a desk job so he doesn't end up dying in the trenches somewhere. He ended up accidentally getting thrown immediately into the trenches. His supernatural luck is in reference to the fact that, for some reason, he often stumbles his way into a grand victory that, I don't know why, it always leads to him getting more accolades and awards. Jokero are cool as shit, and
What the fuck is this? Jokero? You guys know about this? Look, Jokero, the Cairo. What the heck?
love them. They are literally a creation of the old ones that had the task of working with any and every race they meet with the sole intention of making whichever tech they find better in order to kill Necron. They have pocket.
What the hell is this? This is like something from a Pixar movie.
Dimensions on their backs that act as toolboxes, and they are just long-fingered orangutans that are obsessed with technology. And I love them for it. Yes, hell yeah. I love the squats. The squats are the old term the Imperium used to describe the various members of the Leagues of Votan. Back in the day, they were an abhuman sub-race that worked in the Imperial Guard, but we've recently found out that those were just mercenaries that worked alongside the Imperium, as they tend to actually do that a lot right now. Now that they've been recently rebooted as the Leagues of Votan, they are considered a Xenos race, and they're one of my favorite, if not my favorite faction in the entire game. I also have a tattoo of their main symbol, which is cool. The Krorks are what the orcs were originally. These individuals were hyper-intelligent orcoid beings that were basically if orcs made space marines. Taller, stronger, significantly smarter, and were made as a weapon to kill the Necron, which both succeeded and failed in its—
Dude, yo, what the? Look at the Space Marine!
Hyper-intelligent orcoid beings that were basically if orcs made space marines. Taller, strong—
Yo, holy shit! Look at that! Look, yo! So a regular human is this big. Like, so his feet, like, were like this big? This dude is the size of a fucking no, he's bigger than a dreadnought! Holy shit! It's like all the orcs become war bosses. And they become even taller and smarter and stronger. What the fuck? It's crazy.
Stronger, significantly smarter, and were made as a weapon to kill the Necron, which both succeeded and failed in its own right. They have evolved due to their weirdly constructed genetics, and now they're just the orcs that we know today. Ha! So this one didn't age well. But basically, people used to believe that due to the Wa psychic field, Commissar Yarrick, who fought many an orc and even the biggest orc on Armageddon, Ghazghkull Thraka, was immortal as he was seen fighting greenskins with a sword at the age of 80. Unfortunately, it has been confirmed recently that old Baelai did indeed pass on, and Ghazghkull Thraka could not be more upset. Love Can Bloom is one of the weirder entries on this list so far, as it's actually in reference to an old story made in, I believe, the TG boards on 4chan.
What the hell is Love Can Bloom? Is this like Romeo and Juliet or something?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but basically it's a love story, fan fiction type deal about a relationship between a Vindicare assassin and an Eldar Farseer. It's kind of cringe and a bit of an old head reference, but if you're interested, there is a lot of archives out there about it. Cypher was the rank given to the person in charge of upholding all traditions and customs for the Knights of the Order back on Callum.
This shit is... What's the one dude's name from Assassin's Creed? Altar. Altair. Assassin's Creed Space Marine. Dude, he shoots you, he put out this, he go like this. This one's like this big. Holy shit, boom!
And in the pre-heresy times, the Knights of the Order were the specific order of Techno Knights that Lionel Johnson founded in order to kill the beasts of Caliban. This order ended up being disbanded and absorbed into the Dark Angels, and somehow there's still someone roaming around with the name of Cypher. This individual wears the original black color scheme of the original Dark Angels instead of the current green, and we don't know much about him, but he's incredibly mysterious, and we don't even know if he's loyal or chaotic, but probably both, actually. Ynid and the Ynnari are kind of a weird footnote. Basically, there was an old Eldar prophecy that once all the Eldar dies with them. There are a bunch of different interpretations to that, and I'm oversimplifying it, but the maniacs on Bieltan, alongside a few other individuals, it had a weirder interpretation where if they killed enough Eldar and generated enough death energy all at once, something would happen. And something did happen. It partially summoned Ynid, the death god of the Eldar, who was prophesied to probably be able to kill Slaanesh. They never successfully
So this one versus Slaanesh, who will win, guys?
got Ynid to be fully birthed into the world, but they did have a sub-faction mounted towards that prophecy of trying to get Ynid here, and that's the Ynnari, which is a band of Eldar that come from the 3 different major groupings, which is the regular Craftworld Eldar, the Dark Eldar, and the Harlequins. I don't know what the person who made this iceberg was smoking.
Chaos gods represent mental disorders. Alright, bro. Yo, this is gonna be interesting. I have to listen to this.
For this, but the only reference I have for the Chaos Gods represent mental disorders is some forum posts made a while back on a bunch of different...
2006? Bro, I was like, what is that? I was fucking 5th grade, like 4th grade. You'll have to my volume.
About Warhammer, and they were made about 20-30 years ago, and they're basically just talking about how Khorne represents violent psychosis, Nurgle is depression, Slaanesh is perversion, which I guess counts, and Tzeentch is obviously schizophrenia.
Alright, so Khorne can be violent. I can see that, right? Nurgle? I don't know about the depression part, but I know that Nurgle is pretty nasty. So I guess maybe if you're like a nasty person, but then also Slaanesh is like a nasty person. So for sure, Slaanesh is perversion, for sure. Khorne and Slaanesh, it makes sense to me because Khorne is pretty violent, blood kill, right? Tzeentch, I don't know if it's schizo or telepathic. I guess in a way it is. I would say that Tzeentch is more about studying dark energy, dark powers and stuff, scheming, trickery. How about depression for Nurgle?
A bit obscure if that's what they're referencing, but I can dig it. Melanids are actually a rare species.
Makes sense. But what is this? Another furry race? Is this Rengar? What is this? Felinids.
Species of abhuman, who we don't know pretty much anything about. I think only know their name.
Bro, it's literally furry.
As we haven't gotten any updates about them after the fact. But looking at their name, we could probably figure out exactly what they are. Cat people. The Hrud are one of the most dangerous...
What the hell is this? Hrud? What is this? This shit looks like SCP.
Species in the universe, with their bodies, for some reason, emitting a field of energy that usually speeds up time, aging anything around them to dust. But there has been occasions where it has actually slowed down time or even reversed it, which I think a lot of people often forget. They usually migrate in herds, not trying to really hurt anybody, but just by nature of their own existence, they usually do hurt people.
This is why I like icebergs, guys, because I can learn about something new.
Cabal is a secret alien conclave of weird species who banded together in order to stop the spread of chaos. It is their only unifying goal. It's led by mostly ancient-ass Eldar who could not be worse with the whole public relations thing if they tried. Though also, people have a vendetta against them as they're the governing body that has to unleash John Grammaticus as a weapon, so there's that. The Umbra are an especially obscure race of Xenos. We don't truly know what they are, only that they are essentially these...
Dude, this shit looks like if the warp... Alright, so you warp, right? A lot of shit goes on in there. But I feel like Umbra, I feel like if the warp was a separate faction, I think this is the army that it would make.
Weird living black pearls that can control shadows. Which, let's get this straight, they can't control shadows. There is nothing to control. Shadows are the absence of light. So they probably just create artificial shadows and some kind of artificial blackness that...
Dude, imagine Space Marine fighting a shadow. How the hell do you kill a shadow?
They control using some kind of psychic shit to form solid bodies, weapons, and monsters to fight. Layer 5, the...
Dude, we're only halfway. Layer 5?
Depths. Why am I having so much...
Do you like at the end of the video it's gonna be like layer 20. Now I'm just kidding. It's like level probably like
Trouble with this. The depths. It's one of those.
There we go.
The tower uplifted by the Eldar is in reference to a not incredibly common conspiracy theory that the Eldar were trying to create the ultimate weapon to kill chaos. So why not create something that could not be seen by them by having weak souls and specialize in the thing that chaos has a hard time dealing with, which is ultra long-range weaponry. The theory itself does hold a little bit of water, but it's probably bullshit, so still fun though. Tuska Demon Killer is a classic orc meme. Basically, an orc who learned that fighting demons was pretty...
Isn't this the guy that Korn saw this dude? He was like, man, I like this guy. I will send this guy to my realm and have him fight every day. Because he entertains me or some shit.
Damn fun, actually. So he decided to crash land his ship filled with his own personal war on a Khorne demon world, and on that world, he went to town, killing as many demons as possible and living the best life he possibly could. Khorne thinks that
Orc Valhalla. The orcs are revived forever to fight because it's like spores. Once you kill an orc, they release millions of them on the planet.
dude's radical, which is kind of cool. Fabius Bile's new men are, as you could probably figure out, a creation of Fabius Bile. They are also basically just bigger humans that are stronger, faster, and smarter, but unfortunately they're moralless psychos. What Fabius is trying to do is he's seeding them across the universe into normal human populations so that they'll commingle, reproduce, and then spread their horrible genes across the universe, so he'll eventually override the current strain of humanity. The Great Crusade era orcs are an enigma. Basically, there was a shift in...
That's the Castle Dreadnought. What the fuck is this? Is this a ground battleship orc? What is this? A ground battleship orc tower artillery?
Orc culture, from what I gather, where the more techie orcs existed back then during the Great Crusade, with a lot more mechs and big mechs that were running the show for the majority of these orc tribes. This led to higher levels of technology and more dangerous weapons that made them harder to deal with. These orc tribes were hunted into extinction, and thus why right now we only have the ones that are ruled by the biggest orc. So war bosses were actually not that common back then because it was actually kind of a negative to have a big lumbering idiot running your tribe. So also fun fact, the Great Crusade era orcs kind of slammed the Emperor for a little bit. It wasn't like 100% they were winning, but he got surprised, which is interesting. Warhammer, this topic, I can't really say without this video getting demonetized, and there's a lot of effort going into its production, so I'd like to actually have it be...
Look what he's talking about. I ain't gonna say it. You guys can read it, you guys know what it is. I don't think he's gonna go over it.
Seen by people? So as much as I'd love to dance with the devil in the pale moonlight here, Here's
a fun fact. I don't know if it's fun, but here's a fact. I never looked up anything like this before because it's already a grimdark universe, right? So I guess the closest thing that I have seen but not looked up is probably the Chaos Daemon Kulaba. But in a way, that's not really related to this in a way, because that's part of the universe. This shit is not part of the universe. This is just some fan-made stuff. But you
may not be able to...
I'm sure it's gonna go over the Daemon Kulaba. Knowing that this video is 1 minute 35 minutes long and he's covered a lot of this stuff already, I would not be surprised if he covers it sooner than usual. But maybe it could be at the very end. I don't think so. I think there are more worse things than Daemon Kulaba. I'm saying it wrong, I'm sure.
Talk about it, but basically this is just a reference to one of Major Kill's Patreon tiers where you get a boatload of it. The death of Rogel Dorn is a hotly debated topic, as it's definitely under the no body no kill trope, where I think all we have was his hand, and that's it, which obviously means he's going to be returned to us as a Primarch and the Imperium's Milky Way sweep shall continue. The origins of the Tyranids are there's a lot of different theories going around. Maybe they were a last-ditch effort to kill the Necrons and created by the old ones. Maybe they were just some apex predator from a different galaxy that kicked up and off from its own home planet just to come here, like the Dark Continent from Hunter. But other than that, we don't know exactly what their origins are. We do know why they came to the Milky Way, though, and that's because Barabbas d'Antioch and his fun company ended up activating this ancient Necron device known as the Sotha device. I know it was a device on Sotha, we don't really know its real name, but that basically created a beacon that lured the Tyranids to the system. Here's some weird shit. The Elamic Quietude is a faction of humans who survived Old Night and the birth of Psychers by grafting their entire nervous system into machines. They are literally just a brainstem and a skull in a robot body. They actually believed that they were the true heirs to humanity and Terra, but unfortunately, if I remember correctly, they had the misfortune of running into the Space Wolves, who had a few things to say about that. Mostly murder. The Thyrus are weird little squiddy guys that we know almost nothing about, but the stuff we do know is really fun. How they view war as a production for entertainment, and that they need to perform to entertain themselves and others. So their weapons are usually unwieldy instrument, weird looking things that shoot a shitload of lasers in different colors like a rainbow to be more performative. Is it useful? No. Do they win a lot of wars? I don't think so, because we don't hear about them that often, but you know what? Good on them. More power to them. First edition Warhammer 40k or Rogue Trader.
This is a board game? Holy, yo, this is so old. Look at this font. This font's normal, but look at this font. 40,000. You got the Power Fist? Oh my god, it's crazy.
Is the first time that GW tried to make their little sci-fi game that could. The rules are actually insane in comparison to modern day 40k with a bunch of random bullshit thrown in.
Rogue Trader, I think it got updated and it's on Steam now, but that's the old one he's talking about.
As it's also more of a skirmish
He blurred this out.
Game than anything else, but it is a really fun book to read on its own, with some of the older lore being absolutely bonkers by today's standards. It is fun to whip out every now and then and play with the boys, right? I have no idea what old TG Not Safe for Work fanfiction is in reference to, though I feel like the name pretty much infers exactly what is on the tin, so I never much engaged on 4chan that much, but I assume this is in reference to some rather deplorable shit. Jagatai Khan's location is in reference to the fact that he was chasing after Dark Eldar into the Webway, and that was the last time that we saw him. So he's most likely in Kamara killing shit and getting up to some wacky hijinks, because that seems like his thing. Or he's being tortured horribly day in and day out, and we'll never see him again, because the White Scars are not as popular as I really want them to be. Enslavers are one of the worst and most actually horrifying.
This is crazy looking. Holy shit. This shit looks like it will like go on your head and just mind control you.
Warp bases species in the setting. See, they live in the warp and they act as a psychic parasite, finding unshielded psychers to burrow their larvae into. These psychic
I was right.
brainworms literally grow and control the minds of the people that they've infested until they get to maturity before breaking open a psychic portal to allow more enslavers to enter real space, and thus the process is both sped up and also in person and worse.
Damn, bro.
Stripping Custodes is a literal reference to if the Emperor had a text-to-speech device, where in said series, the members of the Custodes had been represented by the Pillarmen from JoJo Part 2 with Custodes helmets, which are basically just half-naked, oiled-up, beefy men. So, for context on this next one, when Slaanesh killed and consumed the souls and power of the Eldar Pantheon, there were several gods that managed to escape, one of them being Isha, likely to go somewhere much worse, as Nurgle took an interest in her as she was a god of healing and rejuvenation. Thus, Nurgle likely uses her for his experiments to create the strongest diseases possible and see how it affects her, as she will always regenerate from whatever he does to her. And the Kaban machine was one of the first AI creations that the Mechanicum ever mastered and created. It was first sent to war on the literal outset of the Martian schism on the side of the traitors. The Kaban machine was sent to basically deal with knights and any specific task that required not so much a delicate hand, but a hateful hand. The Kaban machine was dealing with multiple knights at a time and actually winning. It eventually ended up losing in a very smart play by throwing it off a cliff, but it was still a very interesting device while it lasted, even though it did end up getting scrapped. Layer 6, Black
Wait, we're already on layer 6? That's it?
Waters. Obi-Wan Sherlock Clouseau is a hallmark
Obi-Wan Sherlock Clouseau. Definitely not Obi-Wan Kenobi.
of the Rogue Trader era of 40k, which 40k was originally supposed to be nothing but a bunch of references to contemporary sci-fi and action films of the time. So this fine fellow here is a reference to Obi-Wan Kenobi, the Star Wars fame, Sherlock Holmes fame, and Clouseau is a reference to Detective Clouseau from the Pink Panther series. The warp-based nature of the Primarchs is a fun piece of trivia. Basically, regardless of how much a Primarch abstains from being psychic, every Primarch is impossibly linked to the warp due to their nature and also due to them being basically just clones of the Emperor himself, who is an incredibly psychic being. There's also the theory that the Primarchs are powered by the spirits of warp gods whom the Emperor used in their creation, but that's not confirmed. Cypher as a loyalist is a fun theory. See, even though Cypher is more often than not used in Fallen Chaos Marine lists, there is a theory he is Zahariel, an old Dark Angels loyalist Marine who just so happened to be on Caliban when Luther, during its civil war on the Terrans, happened. Zahariel has a lot of ties to the Order of Caliban, and thus he would rightfully be able to own the title of Cypher without much protest from anyone else. The theory goes on to state that Zahariel is probably working from the shadows with some kind of agenda to help the Imperium of mankind. The Emperor is dead theory is pretty simple. Basically, the Emperor's body has long since died, and the Golden Throne isn't preserving him, it is trapping his soul and using it to fuel the Astronomicon. And it's also preventing him from reforming. As we all know, the Emperor is a perpetual, so in order to reform, his soul needs to leave his body. The Sanguinor is the Blood Angels' personal panic button, essentially due to all Blood Angels being at least a little psychic, as well as them being covered in the little blood gems you see all over their bodies, which are also psychic amplifiers. When it comes to a great deal of strain, trouble, and praying for salvation, this golden entity will appear to them from time to time, and their fervor fuels it. This is the Sanguinor. The entity resembles Sanguinius with modern armor to reflect modern sensibilities. It's basically just an imperial demon. Speaking of demons, fun fact, Genghis Khan was actually the first human demon prince in—
What the fuck is this? Wait, what? Genghis Khan is the first human demon prince. What?
the 40k setting. He became a demon prince known as Doombreed, who obviously serves corn. The Moriental's true intentions in 40k are pretty damn unknown, as due to a mixture of reasons, it's almost impossible for people to ever really find out what he wants. Him being multiple brains in multiple jars attached to one body, him spreading those brains across the universe to make the Khals inferior. Some think he is trying to become the new Fabricator General because one of the Khal inferiors has been saying as such, but he denies it fervently. Some think he is trying to take over the Imperium as a whole. Some think he's a techno-traitor who secretly sided with Horus and is just trying to worm his way into more echelons of power. Not many people know the truth. I don't even think he does, really. The Cog Whisperers, or the Children of the Cog, are a subsection of the Machine Gods cult, from what I could find, who believe that they can actually speak to the machine spirits inside vehicles. This kind of holds a little bit of water, as it's been displayed that some characters in the setting can actually do that. The most obvious one being the Emperor, who once commanded a knight with a busted leg to fix itself, which, so as not to be rude, it did. Oh, fuck, this is a big one. The Rangda are an unknown species of Xenos that is responsible for the Rangda Xenocide. We don't know what they are, and the Rangda Xenocide is pretty much one of the biggest what-ifs, unknown whatevers in the entirety of 40k, as we lost a Primarch during it allegedly, and we lost a lot of the legions that currently existed at the time. It is thought that it was actually not a species known as the Rangda, but a coalition between the Crave, which are an incredibly powerful psychic race of pre-War in Heaven Xenos, as well as the Sloth, who are worm men that can passively manipulate the minds of those around them. It would make sense because one of the big theories about the wrong to Xenocide is that mind control played a very big part in it. The Nephilim are a minor race of Xenos who look canonically a bit like Baymax from Big Hero 6. Basically, they come in a variety of different colors depending on how old they are, and they have this weird ability to tear chunks off themselves into these goo piles they can then attach to living beings. We saw it work on humans, where they cover their face and basically give them whatever nutrients they need to survive as long as it's attached, and also brainwashes them to think that this alien species is actually angels from whatever religion that they believe in or whatever religion that they could believe in. Thus, the Nephilim are pretty good at passively taking over planets by seeming peaceful and then weaponizing the militaries of the planet that they end up on. I'm like 99% certain that the Great Khan ended up wiping out all of the Nephilim. I know that Sanguinius softened them up, but I might find them again later in one of my travels of reading bullshit Warhammer books. Ian Watson is one of the first writers for Warhammer 40k to write consistently in the setting, and is known for writing the Draco series of books. He also writes a lot of stuff that is considered pretty damn weird by today's standards, but more power to him. The Plague of Unbelief is the name given to the rebellion mounted by Goje Van Dyer against the Greater Imperium. It wasn't exactly a secession, as much of it was Van Dyer taking as much power as he can and going a bit wacky with it, declaring many people heretics that stood in his way, and also for some reason declaring that any of the Sisters of Battle that were to be his personal guard were not allowed to wear shoes in the palace. He also put a lot of security cameras low to the ground so you could get a good look at them, but that's only speculation, so
Bro has a foot fetish.
Layer 7. Pitch Black
7.
Seas. Chaos androids are fun. Basically, from an above setting perspective, they are literally just the prototype for the Necron. Because the almost exact models were refitted to be Necron a few years after the release. The in-universe explanation is that they were originally thought to be the creation of the Chaos Squats, which is fun because Chaos Squats means that we might get Chaos Leagues of Votann. Yes, I'm finding a way to make this about the kin. I am all about that life. Mother Gullet is uncomfortable. Basically, Mother Gullet was a Calidus assassin who earned a name for herself by getting a high priority target, which just so happened to be a child out of enemy territory by using her polymorphine to stretch her mouth and stomach to capacity to allow her to swallow the child, and then she left the compound disguised as a rather large woman. The Demunculaba is an experiment.
Yep, he talked about it.
That the Iron Warriors embarked upon to create new Space Marines. It is a bit gruesome because it basically used the bodies of women, and that is as far as I can go describing how they were used. They would grind up the bodies of whole dead Iron Warriors and then feed them into the machines that these women became, and from there they would put adolescent boys inside of these artificial birthing pods, and whoopsie poopsie, a fully grown Space Marine would sometimes come out, which is a pretty efficient way of creating them. They would also come out without skin. I'm omitting a few things. Just leave me be. The Ghoul Stars are my favorite setting in the entirety of the 40k universe. Basically, it's a small cluster of space that it basically breaks every rule that the universe of 40k follows. And what do I mean? Well, for one, chaos is kind of rare there, and two, there are relics there from an ancient Xeno civilization that, if you were to use it, could clear small armies. They are so powerful, and the weird things that exist in that galaxy are also fucking weird. There's a full kingdom of nothing but flayed ones and one overlord, an entire planet filled with zombies that aren't related to Nurgle. Man, this shit is fun. I made a video on the War of the False Primarch a while back, but this is a war we don't know too much about. Basically, we know that the Imperium was getting a bit pissy that someone was calling themselves a Primarch and starting to control massive swaths of Imperial territory, and thus they sent off 5 Space Marine chapters to kill it. Which, if you look into which chapters they sent, it goes without saying that they did. Ordo Chronos is the specific order of the Inquisition that is responsible for all things related to time, including finding out what the actual date is, investigating time anomalies, killing as many Hrud as humanly possible alongside the Ordo Xenos. They also, for some reason, tried to capture a Legion of the Damned member one time. It just got out, which is, I'm glad that they could do that, but it means that the Legion of the Damned members are tangible and just wandering around and not some kind of mass psychosis, which is, I don't want to think about that. The fate of the Night Haunter's soul is up for debate. Really. It's basically a fan theory that the crown that Kurz was wearing on the eve of his death had an Eldar spirit stone in it, which would, in theory, trap his soul in it, meaning that his soul never went to the warp or was dispersed throughout the universe. Theoretically, it means that they could bring him back if they wanted to at some point, but does anybody really want to? The Dark Cells of Terra are the perfect jails hidden at the bottom of the Imperial Palace on Terra. It is guarded by a specific subfaction of the Custodians known as the Shadow Wardens. And in these cells are some of the worst, including possibly one of the Lost Primarchs known as Subject 11. The screaming isn't a thing. This could be a reference to the Screaming Vortex, which is a minor warp rift similar to the Eye of Terror before it ripped up into the Cicatrix Maledictum, or it's a reference to the Howling, which is where this massive Xenos cyborg psyker whatever, known as the Caco Dominus, killed and controlled billions of Imperial worlds before being slain by the Black Templars. Either way, is one of the weirdest planets in the history of 40k, as it was essentially like Terra, but smaller. On it, there was just like micro versions of what was on Holy Terra. There was even a man who proclaimed himself to be the Emperor of Mankind, even though he was separated from the Imperium of Mankind so long that he would never have known that the Emperor existed. On this planet, there were super advanced super soldiers that were not necessarily Space Marines, but they could turn invisible, and that was kind of their big thing. They did give the Space Marines of Horus's fleet a run for their money, but eventually they ended up killing the Emperor of Mankind, well, the fake one, and then setting up shop on the planet. Another interesting fact about 6319 is this is where the first documented excursion with Chaos was for Horus's fleet, as there were Chaos cultists set up on the planet worshipping several different demons, and one of them's name was Samus. No, not that one. The Sensei are natural-born descendants of the Emperor, which implies that over the thousands
What? The Sensei? What is this?
of years the Emperor has been alive, he has indeed fucked, and it scares me to reckon the Emperor. They are natural-born descendants of the Emperor, which implies that over the thousands of years the Emperor has been alive, he has indeed fucked, and it scares me to recognize that. He does indeed also have immortal children that are wandering around out there that for some reason members of the Inquisition are gathering up. Artifact 9 Kappa Mu is a cylindrical black object that is rotating around the sun in the Sol system in 40k. No one truly knows what it is, and that's really all we know about it, but it's actually kind of a funny reference to the fact that in our world, like in real, we actually have something like that. There is an object floating around the sun. We don't really know what it is, but it's always been there. It's kind of cool. There is no real reference to Fenris being an exodite world in the lore, but it is a fun theory. Because basically it implies that millions of years ago, the world of Fenris was colonized by Eldar before they ended up fucking off to another planet. It could also mean that the runes on Fenris that have some kind of power to them, able to ward away psychic energies and whatever, are like old Eldari runes that have lost meaning to their current culture. It could be interesting to look into it, but I doubt it's actually anything of note. Dance Steps for Space Hulk is really funny. The day before Kill Team, there was Space Hulk, where you made a team of Space Marines and sent them into the Bug Hive to kill Gene Stealers. Dance Steps for Space Hulk was an alternate rule set that came out to talk about how you could play in a different way, and there was lore for it too. With Imperial morale being as low as it was at the time, there was this new initiative to take the elite of the elite in terms of Space Marines and give them dancing lessons, so that when they went in to go kill Gene Stealers, they could dance and show that they were unbothered by the bug monsters. And the images that came to accompany these new rules in the White Dwarf magazine they were located in, fantastic. The Emperor is an agent of chaos is a recently debunked theory that the Emperor is secretly working to further the agenda of Chaos Undivided, but due to the whole thing of him almost turning into a chaos god known as the Dark King, but refusing it last minute, it doesn't really hold water anymore. The Orcs Have Already Won is a fun theory that basically goes on to state that Orcs' only victory condition is to always be fighting no matter what. The Orcs have basically put themselves into a universal state where if ever they want to, they can go fight something. So technically, Orcs have already won. Space Skaven's canon has kind of been for a while, but basically in the early iterations of 40k, I think it was actually the base Rogue Trader rulebook, an image of a Hrud was shown. This image was showing what was literally just a Space Skaven. It looked like a rat under a sheet with a gun. Since then, the Hrud have been retconned, and the Space Skaven have not been mentioned since. Ferrus Manus leading the Legion of the Damned isn't really that obscure, but in a moment of great need when the Emperor was fighting for his dear life in the man-made webway that got destroyed by Magnus, thanks Magnus, a giant headless Legion of the Damned member who was carrying a flaming sword showed up and helped lead the Legion. You could probably guess who that was. It's pretty well known, this entire situation, but it's still cool that it ended up on the list. Layer 8. The Edge of the Abyss. The Omega is absolute lunacy. Basically, the Omega Vault is this massive vault complex in Jericho's Reach, which is the area of space the Death Watch is kind of located. The itself is more heavily fortified than the throne room of Terra, and no one can open it, but it sometimes opens up by itself depending on whatever's going on in the universe, leading to a single massive room where there is always something new, just kind of there. Ancient weapons needed for some kind of Xenos threat that's invading an area, to a near-death astropath who sends off one psychic message to an unknown location before dying of old age. The Angel was essentially the prototype for the Primarch project. It was a being of insane power that could decimate cities with ease. The Emperor created the Angel to help with the pacification of Terra, especially to remove certain chaos taint from certain areas of the planet. But the Angel had a problem. Not a drop of chill in his veins. If he thought the Emperor didn't need you, or you weren't showing the correct amount of reverence, you'd immediately be killed and your entire city destroyed. So the Angel ended up being sealed away and the Primarchs were created in its place. The Emperor Planned the Heresy is a fan theory that the Emperor planned out the heresy in order to ascend himself to godhood or accomplish some kind of esoteric goal, though that is unlikely as the Emperor rejected godhood as well as chaos godhood when he was offered it aboard the Spirit of Vengeance to become the Dark King. So there is this theory that Alpharius and or Omegon were raised on Terra and were the first Primarchs to be found by the Emperor. It does hold a little bit of weight, but there is no real way to confirm it, much like with every other goddamn thing the Alpha Legion says or does. The Earl King might actually be a secret warp god we don't really know anything about. Basically, it's a folktale entity that was known on Fen.
The Furry King.
A trickster god based off of a similar fey creature in our own mythologies. Leman Russ ended up interacting with the entity in the warp to find a way to kill Horus, and I don't think he's ever been brought up again, or ever since. Likely ever will, actually. Ghazghkull Thraka is a reference to Margaret Thatcher. Okay, this one actually cleared up a while back. Basically, Ghazghkull's full name is Ghazghkull Mag Uruk Thraka, which kind of sounds a little bit like Margaret Thatcher. It's been confirmed that it's just a coincidence, but it is a funny one. Huh. The Sleeper is literally just another name for the Angel, which I already covered. It's in reference to the fact that it's currently sealed away rather than being destroyed for some reason. Moloch is a planet that, weirdly enough, is one of the most important planets in 40k, as it's a planet where the Emperor allegedly gained immense power from the Chaos Gods, as well as was shown how to create the Primarchs. He conquered this planet using like 4 space regions, which is insane to think about, because that's way too much firepower for pretty much any threat. It also is a site where during the Horus Heresy, the individual of the hour, you know, the whole to show up to get the same power, but he ended up bungling it pretty bad, so it never really became anything other than that. I'm pretty sure the planet's still around now, so that's probably something that should get blown up. The power should not be easily obtained. The relationship between Khorne and Cain is kind of simple. I don't know why it's so far down this list. They are basically gods that represent a similar concept and allegedly are similar in like power, because could straight up fight Slaanesh to a standstill when they were powered up from devouring all the other gods of the Eldar pantheon. But Khorne has shown to be a separate entity from Cain, as he wanted to consume the soul and power of Cain for himself. He ended up not, because Slaanesh stopped him, and then Cain kind of exploded afterwards. Warhammer Fantasy exists within the webway is a really funny theory, because it's basically...
That's a wild theory, man.
Been a running...
Imagine you take your ship in and you're like, what the hell? These are the older people here.
K exists in a small jar on a wizard's shelf in some place in a fantasy universe, or fantasy is its own planet cut off by warp storms in the 40K.
Alright, so I know fantasy is more medieval, like it's like more old school medieval back then. Warhammer is more futuristic, where it has like guns. You know, back then fantasy is all about spears and, you know, shield and, you know, like primitive stuff. But it would be crazy to see how the modern would go against the fantasy. Obviously the modern would just beat them, right? Just shoot them long range, they're dead.
Universe. They do different variations.
But yeah, it would be cool seeing like Chaos Marine shooting a gun, fighting this dude on a horse. And this other dude riding a horse shooting a bow. You know, like, this is gonna be crazy.
Of this back and forth depending on which setting you're in, but I doubt there's any weight to it. I doubt fantasy or AOS exists in 40K and vice versa. It's just a really funny reference. The Emperor's true name is something that holds a lot of power, as most people do not know who he is, or who he could even be. Constantine Valdor for a while was trying to find out what his real name was, but he never got it. I saw some people online who were trying to suss out what the actual name of the Emperor would have been, and they basically traced it back that he could have been one of the mythological
Bro's name is like Jesus Christ.
figures from the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is cool if it's true. Like, the people at the Black Library could probably pull that reference, and it'd be very appreciated. Omegon was a tulpa is a really funny idea. See, tulpas, in as short a way as possible, are constructs made of pure thought. They are something that if you believe in it enough, it becomes real. So the idea that Omegon was Alfarius' imaginary best friend the whole
Imaginary best friend. Oh my god.
time is both sad and funny. Chaos Orcs are in a weird spot canon-wise, as they're
Chaos Orcs? I thought orcs couldn't get like what is it, like influenced by chaos.
are orcs that in pre-3rd edition, which pre-3rd edition is basically just not canon at this point, that ended up actually worshipping corn. They were seen as weirdos by other orcs, but because of how good they were in a scrap, they were often hired as mercenaries. Orcs are technically immune to chaos corruption, as they're just too stupid to actually have any graspable desires that the chaos gods can feed into, and also because they're so psychically powerful, it's just difficult for demons to interact with them anyway. Other than Khorne kind of thinking they're pretty radical just because, you know, Khorne cares not from where the blood flows, only that it does, there really isn't any other connection into modern Chaos Orcs. Enuncia is the primordial language. It is also incredibly dangerous. It is the root tongue that creates magic and shit. If you were to speak Enuncia, you could reshape reality around you, but if you mispronounce any of the syllables or even letters in a single word, you probably explode. There isn't many examples of people using it, but there are a few. My kind of fan theory, and I don't know if this is actually elaborated on in the fiction, is that it's essentially the language that people spoke before the Tower of Babel, that kind of proto-language that everybody could understand that ended up getting destroyed when God punished us for our hubris. It's probably incorrect, because that's mostly speculation, but I think that's an interesting idea. Malkador is the Emperor is a theory that doesn't hold as much weight, but it is interesting to think that either Malkador is a psychic construct created by the Emperor to basically play nanny to the Primarchs, or the Emperor is a great golden figurehead to rally the universe around created by Malkador, as both are psychically powerful enough to kind of pull that off. Either way, it's bullshit, but it's fun bullshit. Layer 9, The Abyss.
Layer 9. Holy shit, we have like 9 here? Was it 10 and 11?
Sigmar is the Star Child is a sentence I feel like if I said it in the wrong circle, it could probably kill someone. Basically, the Star Child is a warp entity of great power, said to be able to grant blessings of a similar scope to Chaos Gods to those who serve the Emperor, or the Star Child. It's not really clear. It is theorized that it is either the kindness of the Emperor gestating in the warp after it broke off from the Emperor, who had to lose it in order to kill Horus, or it is just Tzeentch f***ing around. If it it was Sigmar, that would be really funny, though I feel like there are significantly more interesting ideas out there, so there is that. Horus sits on the Golden Throne is a theory that the Emperor is not the one sitting on the Golden Throne. It's actually Horus, which makes literally no sense, as with a lot of interactions with Gilliman in the modern day, it's pretty much confirmed that the Emperor is the one sitting on the throne. Ateanism is a rabbit hole that sent me into a spasmodic fit. Basically, it is a philosophical belief that the pursuit of truth and the one true truth is the most important goal anyone can take. Basically, there is an undercurrent of what is actually correct through all forms of study, be it scientific, philosophical, or artistic. Ateanism is trying to find the actual through line that connects the purpose behind each of these. Is that confusing? Yes, it is incredibly confusing, and it confused the living shit out of me when I was trying to study it. It turns out that Ateanism isn't even a real philosophical belief, it's just a honeypot created by Slanesh to trap unknowing mortals and forcing them into insanity by reading some shitty book that a guy whose last name is Ateanos wrote called The Eris Transform. This actually upsets me. Perturabo met Hashut is the theory that the reason Perturabo, who was pretty opposed to chaos, turned into a demon prince is because he actually met the only chaos god and entity more grumpy than him, and that is Hashut, being a chaos god from the fantasy universe of tyranny and industry. It didn't happen, but it would be funny if it did. The Crystal Labyrinth of Tzeentch is said to be impossible to navigate, with so many dead ends, as well as its walls being described to be made of lies and deceit, which, dick, that explains everything. But the exit to the labyrinth, as well as a hidden pathway leading to what is referred to as infinite knowledge, is protected by someone known as the Guardian of the Maze. There are 9 gates to get to infinite knowledge. This Guardian is going to ask you a riddle at each gate of increasing difficulty. If you answer correctly, the gates will open.
It's like a grad school exam. It's like those entry questions. Oh my god.
And infinite knowledge is yours. Allegedly, only one person answered all 9 riddles correctly.
Hey, you want this job? Let me ask you 9 questions. I'll give you this infinite knowledge.
Correctly, and it was a young girl with a small black dog, and no, we don't know anything else about her. That's just ominous. Chaos Grey Knights, they just don't exist, but there is an ancient legend about a silver-clad knight who ventured through the various circles of seduction to kill Slanesh, only to get through all of them, and the second they met Slanesh, they instantly became corrupted because Slanesh is just that powerful. This individual ended up becoming the Purple Knight of Slanesh. I like to think that this is a corrupted Grey Knight who in their hubris thought that they could force their way through and kill a god, which, albeit, they did get a bit closer than most people probably would. Alternate heresies are fan fictions made to tell what-if style stories about the Horus heresy, where some things about the heresy are different. What if instead of Horus, that got corrupted by chaos, it was Rogel Dorn, and the current loyalist and traitor lineups were flipped? That's the Dornian heresy, and I really like that one. It's one of my favorites. Heresy. Malice is the secret 5th god of chaos, who technically exists while also technically doesn't exist. He is in legal limbo where, due to some copyright shenanigans, his fantasy counterpart Malal cannot be used anymore. It's a long story. I made a video about Malice a while back. You should go check it out. But Malice is free to be used in the 40k setting as they're not linked to that as close as you'd think. He is around, but he's also not, and we don't know to what extent he is around. The harrowing...
Is that guy the god of chaos undivided? What happened to my volume?
Threat released by an ancient piece of Xenos tech known as the Echo Vault. These entities that don't have much of a description were so dangerous that simply being in their presence of them was enough to drive someone insane. They were sealed away once again, and the vault was sealed using actual tech heresy that was so foul it was wiped from the record to remove whatever stain was left by its usage, which means that the Mechanicus signed off on it as well as the Inquisition, and that has some dire implications considering how dangerous the threat must have been. Sanguinius fell to chaos fighting Horus is an old theory that Sanguinius fell to the Black Rage and also likely to one of the Chaos Gods during the fight with Horus, and the Emperor had to put him down. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, as we saw the fight between Horus and Sanguinius, and oh man, that was depressing. The Siege of Terra happening in an alternate universe is a tinfoil hat theory that there was a split in the timeline that caused divergences in canon, as well as weird differences in appearance for some characters. I think it's not real, and it's just writers forgetting how some characters looked 20 books ago in a 60-plus book series, but f*** me, I guess. The third orc god is real. I don't know how, but by looking through some obscure forum posts and cross-referencing with unrelated ones, apparently there is a half-hearted mention of a third orc god pre-3rd edition when the lore was unionized and made into its own thing. His name is, as you could probably guess, Bork, and we know literally nothing about him. I do know that Bork was retconned into being the name of an orc-inhabited planet, and the orcs who are on said planet call themselves the Cult of Bork, but you know what? That's just plain old interesting. The Pale Wasting is an Eldritch Abomination style threat that exists in the Ghoul Stars. We do not know exactly what it is. It's sometimes described as a plague that sweeps through an area and kills everything, and sometimes described as a living set of creatures, when in 40k it could also be both. It was such a massive threat that it had to be sectioned off so that people would not interact with it, which means that it's probably contagious. The fate of Ra Endymion is long and complicated, but basically there was a demon that could theoretically match the Emperor in power, a rogue god of chaos, Dracnian. This demon could not be killed, so the Emperor transformed it into his sword, which he then stabbed into one of his most trusted custodians, Ra Endymion, sealed it in his body, and then instructed Ra to run as fast and as far as he possibly could, getting away from here and never letting anyone get a hold of the sword, which unfortunately ended up with Abaddon the Despoiler getting a hold of it and killing Ra Endymion, but it took him a couple thousand years, so that sucks. The Necron tier, where time-traveling humans, is a fan theory that suggests the universe eventually gets so for humanity that they have to travel back in time to save themselves, and thus they become the Necron tier. It is kind of a fun theory, but there's absolutely no way of confirming this. Layer 10. ForgeWorld.com.
What the hell? ForgeWorld.com.
The cyclic nature of the galaxy is referencing that there is always a species on the incline, growing in power while another is falling out of favor due to their own hubris. Everyone has a time to shine in the spotlight, but everyone also has a time in the backstage in the shadows. The mainstay part of the cycle is the struggle to stay on top. The Eldar have been struggling to go back for millennia, and humanity is fighting to go back to what they just lost a couple thousand years ago. Thus, the cycle never ends. The Well of Eternity is a spot in the warp that is this massive mystical black hole. It is so...
You guys notice this picture? These are two eyeballs. This is a nose. This is a mouth. This is a skull. What the hell is this? This is a Leviathan right here. You guys, like, see this photo? It's a skull.
Mysterious that even the gods of knowledge, sorcery, and trickery don't know what is in there. Tzeentch has long since been trying to find out where it leads by throwing bird after bird into it to find out what happens, only ever having one success, Kairos Fateweaver, who came out technically blind, but he can now perfectly predict the future for the most part while also seeing the perfect recollections of the past. So there really isn't any concrete understanding about what the Nex is, so after I looked in a few places, I'm just going with what my favorite answer was, and it's that there is this kind of continuance fan fiction known as Warhammer 50k The Age of Dusk. I've known about it for a while because I'm a big fan of random 40k offshoot fan fiction, and it's this big fan writing project that takes place in the year 50k, and it's an extrapolation as to what could have possibly happened to get there. The Nex is some eldritch being that plays the part of a non-chaos related major threat that might be some sort of spiritual issue that is not warp related, as when other things that are not warp related interact with it, it doesn't interact the same way a ghost or a chaos being would. We don't know much about it, but we do know that saying its name out loud can actually cause weird ripples in reality as well as cause people to go insane. Thus, we simply shorten its name to the Nex. The Starfather is likely a reference to whatever being did give rise to the Star Child, an entity of such great power that it could create the savior of mankind or could usher us into the grave. Or it's someone being cute and putting something on the bottom tier that makes actual no sense for some reason. This is a complicated one. But in Warhammer Fantasy in the olden days, there was actually quite a few Chaos Gods. This is in the early editions. Why do you think that the current Chaos Gods' holy numbers are?
Holy Horn, Urgo, Malal, Alice, could the gods of law, Illuminus, Arianka, Soken. The hell?
Are 629, with Malice being a bit of an outlier with the number 11. It's because in Warhammer Fantasy, there were actually a bunch of dudes flying around. I won't list all of them here. I might make a video in the future about them, who knows? Blackstone, from what I can tell, was created using extreme psychic and physical stresses from both the Eldar and the Old Ones. This was essentially a crucible type effect to make a material that could both harm and even kill Catan, which might infer that Blackstone was necessary to make the Catan killing weapons that the Necron had before. This leads us to understand why the Necron have adopted the Blackstone so well, as it's the best way to trap and contain the Catan. It also is just a weird magical rock that humanity likes to poke from time to time. There was like a couple billion years before the Old Ones were a thing and rose to power, so we don't truly know what
It's a frog, man.
happened before the Old Ones existed in the galaxy. I know that the Catan were created and the universe was kind of this nebulous area with no differentiation between what the warp was and what reality was, and thus the birth of the star-devouring entities called the Catan were able to be created without being necessarily a part of the warp. It's likely that the universe was a macroscopic version of what the primordial soup was when we were kind of swimming around in it. With the
Is this the Spores game?
the basic building blocks of whatever life needed to be fighting for survival. Thus, the Star Gods and the Frogmen survived and moved on to create what we all have now. So chaos worship is kind of a thing. I had a buddy who actually used to practice practical chaos magic in real life.
What?
But it's basically the idea that intent and self-belief can bend reality, or make certain probabilities more likely. There are rituals, and it's usually pretty weirdly occult, but it is interesting. I'd recommend looking into it if it's something that you might find knowledge from. Rituals include the burning of sigils that you put your intent into, making symbols that have meaning exclusively to you and what you want to accomplish, then using them to evoke certain events. I'm simplifying it, but it is interesting as all hell. Everything is in reference to that everything, even the stuff from the Rogue Trader days, is canon, though GW usually says this with a wry smile and a cheeky look in their eyes, as they also say that nothing is true, where they play the old unreliable narrator card, and some of the things back in the day that they were talking about just aren't actually true. They were just a story being told by some brain-damaged servitor or some shit.
What the hell is your Helldivers, Marine?
Nothing!
Speaking of Helldivers, I need to play Helldivers. I want to test it out on my computer.
Is in reference to the player base who believes that the only portions they choose to acknowledge are canon, and thus technically
Damn,
nothing
look
is
at that
canon.
sword. Look at the sword of Robute Gilliman.
There is nothing stopping you from, in your own headcanon, running an Iron Warriors and Imperial Fist joint narrative campaign where they are also best friends and their Primarchs totally make out all the time. Games Workshop is a collective hallucination is a common theory, as it might actually just be an MK Ultra psyop that was implanted in our minds so that the government can tax those who have a bit too much disposable income without them knowing. I personally like to think it's a mixture of hallucinogenic drugs and a brain parasite that resembles the chestburster from Alien. The Famir were the first race to truly worship chaos, and were one of the biggest threats to humanity for a short period of time. They are half the reason why the Primarch project was initiated after the Angel and the Emperor had scoured the entire planet of all chaotic taint. As the Famir, who had occupied a small cult-like space on Luna, the moon of Terra, were launching massive raids to destroy the subtle infrastructure the Emperor had only just begun. I'm fucking with you. There's no such thing as the space Famir. I just made that shit up. And that was the ultimate obscure 40k lore iceberg.
Let's go, guys. Thanks for watching. Wait, that's it, right? There's more?
The most dangerous of challenges I have ever partaken in. I felt like I could die at any minute during my research. I got this bit.
Let's go, guys.